What's up, everybody? Josh Armijo here. I hope everybody's doing good and well and stuff. I got an album review to do for you, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is the new album from the band Mayhem, entitled Esoteric Warfare. This is released on Season of Mist. Now, this is a band that needs absolutely no introduction if you are a fan of black metal, or more specifically, Norwegian black metal. But to make it short, sweet, and to the point, Mayhem are one of the most famous, infamous, controversial, and legendary bands to come out of the black metal underground and to serve as a thumbprint for the culture of black metal and anything that has followed since then. I mean, just such amazing, amazing music to come from this band throughout the course of the last 3 decades. It's just amazing that this band has continued to run on so long and be such an institution. I mean, from the early releases, from the mid-'80s to the '90s, stuff like the Death Crush EP, the Live in Leipzig album, to even their much heralded debut full-length De Mysteriis Dom Satanas. That album is just absolutely incredible, and I know it gets talked up a lot from black metal fans, but I consider that record to be a masterpiece, and honestly the best thing that Mayhem have ever done. It's just amazing. I've even enjoyed the stuff that they've put out post De Mysteriis Dom Satanas. I liked the stuff that they did with Maniac. I liked the Wolf's Lair Abyss EP, and the 2 full-lengths that followed the debut, Grand Declaration of War and Chimera. Both very, very different records, showcasing Mayhem wanting to be a little bit more experimental and unique with their black metal sound. I thought both those records were very unique and special. And then we come to 2007 with Ordo ad Chao. Yet another example of this band wanting to branch out and be a little bit more experimental with their sound. And I thought that album was absolutely great. I loved the music, I loved Attila's vocals, just a lot of great things going on with this record. Of course, it would be too exhaustive for me to get into the whole idea of who Mayhem are, what they're about, because it would take far too long. So I would encourage anybody to check out the documentary Pure Fucking Mayhem if you want to get a look at the history of Mayhem, or definitely read into a lot of the books that have covered this band, or any documentary that has covered this band. It's really, really incredible. Now here we are with their long-awaited 5th full-length album entitled Esoteric Warfare. There's a bit of a difference in the lineup this time around. Rune Eriksson, aka Blasphemer, is not playing on this album, which made me wonder what they were going to do to change their dynamic of sorts. So they brought in a guy by the name of Telok. You may best know him for his work with bands such as Nonfuck Ritual or Nidingir. 2 really, really awesome bands in their own right. And of course, Necro Butcher is back to play bass on this album, so I was interested to hear what kind of sounds and ideas that Mayhem would bring to the table with Esoteric Warfare. It's 10 tracks, and it clocks in at around 47 minutes in length, and honestly, this is one of those albums that I've listened to a lot. Normally, when I listen to an album, I usually give it a fair share of about maybe 3 to 4 plays. I don't like to listen to an album too much. But in the case of Esoteric Warfare, I listen to it far more than that. I listened to this album far more than that. And eventually, from when I first started listening to this album, I thought it was, alright. I thought it was okay. But then, as I listened to this more, the more I listened to it, the more it ended up growing on me. And it genuinely surprised me that something like this grew on me as much as it did. And honestly, the one thing that stands out to me more than anything is the riffs and the guitar work that Telok brings for this album. I think he is an absolutely worthy addition to the Mayhem institution, to the band, and just the way he handles the music here on this album is just really, really amazing. I mean, just the way the riffs are being structured and handled, it has an almost sort of a quirky avant-garde sort of quality to them, like on tracks like Psywar or Trinity. Just the riff works on those particular tracks is just really, really sensational, and it shows the attention and craft to detail that Telak knows how to bring. They've recently included a second guitar player, but I don't believe he's playing on this album. He's credited on the album, but he's not playing. But the riffs on this album mainly are all belonging to Telak, and he just does an absolutely sensational job with the guitar riffs. And to me, that's the absolute best part about Esoteric Warfare is Telak's guitar work. It's just really, really amazing. Very, very weird, very quirky, very almost technical in spots, but you can definitely tell that this is a pretty raw sounding guitar performance. I mean, going later on into the album with songs like Throne of Time and Posthuman, just some really, really amazing, almost dissonant sort of chords going on those particular tracks, and I just really, really think it's amazing. His guitar work makes your attention makes you want to pay attention to this album a lot more, and I'm glad that Telak is a part of this band, because he really makes Esoteric Warfare shine so much with his guitar. Moving on to the bass, I've always liked Necro Butcher. He's always been a very clear, loud, and audible sort of bassist, and hearing the bass work on Esoteric Warfare is really, really amazing. I just love how dingy and dirty his bass tone sounds. It's loud, but not too loud to the point where you feel it's overly distracting. I believe he plays the bass incredibly well here. Going back to the track Posthuman, you just hear the bass riffs going off very patiently, very methodically, and definitely holds the track down very, very smoothly. His bass work is very, very good here. I love the way Necro Butcher handles himself here on this album. Now we move on to the drums. Of course, another well-heralded member of Mayhem, Hellhammer. Just an insane drummer. And here on Esoteric Warfare, he just shows you how diligent and smart of a drummer he can really be. The moments where it's fast work very, very well. The moments where it's a little methodical and slow-paced at times, he makes that handle very well. Excuse me. I wish that in certain instances I would have liked some certain parts of the drums to be a little louder in this album mix. But aside from that, I definitely think that Hellhammer gets the job done here with the drum performance. I really love his super fast blasting, his creative fills, just the speed and intensity that he has just shows you that he is still a dominant force as a drummer, and just delivering an amazing, amazing drum performance. And now we get on to the vocals. Attila is one of the most interesting people in the metal culture, and his vocal style has always been something to, be fascinated by. He's like the metal equivalent of a shot of scotch. It's an acquired taste. But to anybody who does love what Attila knows how to do, he brings a very, very solid vocal performance here. I'm loving his vocal diversity. I love the fact that he can be very demonic and have some really, really awesome shrieks. Excuse me. Some dominant shrieks, some really, really awesome growls. Just the moments in the album where you hear his voice begin to strain and tear a little bit. I don't know if that's the kind of vocal intent he sets out to do, but his vocal styling is as special and as unique as can be. Really awesome vocal stylings. I even love the certain parts of the album where his voice begins to become a little bit lower, a lot more of a guttural register. Kind of reminds me of the stuff that he does with Sun, or Nader Sadek to be specific. I think he was on the Nader Sadek record. I could be wrong, but just the bellowing, booming moments of his vocals sound really, really awesome, and it definitely makes you want to pay attention to the overall vibes and lyrical themes that are going on with this album. Of course, the theme being have a warfare sort of theme going on, and of course you hear that on songs like Trinity or 6 Seconds. Going back to Trinity, you have the I am become death, the destroyer of worlds vocal sample being used on that particular track, and I think it's so awesome that they include that on that one particular song. But overall, I think the songwriting and lyric aspects of this album work out very well here. So overall, I like this album way more than I thought I was going to. I honestly didn't really know how to feel about it the first couple of listens, but once I gave it more time to listen to it and settle in, it clicked with me. And I think Esoteric Warfare is a triumph, a really solid triumph. I do think that there could be better emphasis on louder drums, but aside from that small bit of nitpicking, I think this is an otherwise sensational record. If you're a Mayhem fan, if you feel you've been let down by previous Mayhem releases, I would say give Esoteric Warfare a shot. Whether you think Mayhem are back to doing business, or whether you think they're not worthy of your time, is entirely up to you. But I really enjoyed Esoteric Warfare, and it is definitely a definite surprise for me. So, if I had to pick any favorite tracks, I would definitely have to say Psywar, Trinity, 6 Seconds, Throne of Time, and Posthuman. So I'm going to leave you a link in the description box to the Season of Mist Bandcamp, where you can stream this album in its entirety, hear it for yourself, and be your own judge as to whether you think it's worthy of being purchased or not. You can buy it digitally there. It is also available on CD. I believe this is the first press digipack version, and it comes with this nice little booklet with lyrics and additional artwork. Really awesome stuff. And it's also available on other assorted formats, cassette, vinyl, double vinyl, I think, and there's also a collector's box set edition too. So whatever interests you about Esoteric Warfare, get it physically however you're able to. So again, the album is Esoteric Warfare by Mayhem. This is released on Season of Mist. Check it out. I'm going to give this a very strong 8 out of 10. In entering their third decade of diligence, Mayhem are setting another good standard here with this album. So, support Mayhem. I'm going to conclude this review. Thanks all for watching. Thanks for checking out my channel, and until the next time, Armio out.